What's up? Welcome to episode number 126 of the People We Love podcast. I am Adam Choate. If you're new here, what I do is interview people from all walks of life, most often comedians and other entertainment types about their lives and careers. It's a casual conversation, but I also ask everyone to highlight the people they love, who've inspired them, who've influenced them. And it's been a lot of fun. For more about this podcast, of course, check out peoplewelovepodcast.com. That's peoplewelovepodcast.com. The YouTube channel is People We Love Podcast. You'll find it. And please be sure to subscribe. Click the or smash, as they say, the subscribe button. I appreciate that. I'm on Instagram and Twitter as well at Adam Choate. That's my handle if you want to follow me. And please remember to tap subscribe or follow on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on. That is greatly appreciated, as are 5-star positive reviews on iTunes, Apple Podcasts. That's helpful for me and for the show. Today's guest is musician and music teacher Shawn Osborne. Lafayette, Indiana's own, has been mostly blind most of his life, but nor that nor a bad car accident when he was younger could dissuade him from pursuing his passions, music and activism. We talk metal, we talk classical music, we talk some libertarian stuff, we talk moving to LA and much more. And Shawn also tells me about one particular music teacher who had a profound influence on him, Laszlo Cser. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I think I am. Laszlo Cser. Anyway, this was a good conversation, so let's just get started. Here's Shawn Osborne. So it's good to see you today, Shawn Osborne. Thank you.
Good to see you, Adam. How's it going?
Oh, thank you for joining me. I was almost ready for your first, what did you say, a blind joke or whatever?
Yeah, I crack a lot of them. I grew up watching Mr. Magoo. So I love me a good blind joke.
Yeah. How are you, by the way?
Pretty good.
Hanging in there during whatever year this is.
Yeah. Getting ready to been mixing my newest album, so that's what I've been busy with right now, and trying to set up a couple of my own podcasts and stuff like that. But other than that, reading or listening to a lot of audiobooks.
Yeah, you sounds like you can't complain too much.
Nah. I'm against the government mandates, but I'm an introvert, so they just gave me a lot of time to do what I wanted to do, sit at home and work on music and shit like that. So I hate the mandates, but I did take full advantage of it. Yeah, I
have this thought that like people are not, it's not necessarily that you're an introvert, you're just a curious person who likes to do things. I think that's what it comes down to. People who are, I don't know, people like you, it's good to have a balance between being, so social and being able to appreciate your own time. But I don't know. I think you're just a person who probably has hobbies and interests and aspirations and doing things and all that. But we can get into it. Why don't you tell me about where you're from and where you grew up, a little bit about your background and family stuff. What are your earliest memories? Are you from Lafayette, Indiana? Is that what it's
Lafayette, Indiana? Yeah, where Purdue University is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I grew up there. It's a nice place to grow up. It's a cool small town, I guess. But I tended to get in a little too much trouble with the cops for my loud music. My neighbor would always call the cops on me. So I have the record in Lafayette for a number of police calls during a day and that kind of stuff. They made the mistake of telling me that they were going to shame me with it, but I found great pride in it. Being an old metalhead. So yeah, it is I think it was a little too peaceful for me in that sense. I love Los Angeles. I like all the cultural stuff and everything, and all that kind of stuff. Just the politics really blow.
Yeah. So Lafayette, Indiana is where you're from, and you grew up into metal. What about when you were real young? Did you have siblings growing up?
Yeah, I have a younger brother. He's 6 years younger than me. Usually people think he's older because he's a lot bigger than me. I'm 5'8". He's 6 foot something. So everybody always assumed he was the older one because he outgrew me pretty damn quick.
Gotcha. What about elementary school aged, Sean? What do you remember being into? Were you into metal back then?
Yeah,
too,
yeah,
or
yeah. I kind of got out of it a little bit, but my first album was Dirty Deeds by AC/DC.
and that's when you were how old?
Oh man, shit. 6, 7.
You were 6, 7. Was that when that album came out?
Someplace
Or
right around that general
around then?
Yeah. My first concert, my mom, she always encouraged me to listen to music and stuff like that. So my first concert was Judas Priest and Kiss in 1979. I was 9
Gotcha.
years old. So that was great.
Well, yeah. One thing I don't know about you, were you born blind or that came later
I've
in
always
life?
had really piss poor vision, but what I have is called retinitis pigmentosa, and basically the retina loses its pigment, and as it loses its pigment, it starts everything starts to fade away. It kind of looks like, I guess the best way I could say the way that I see is like looking through a dirty windshield, and with a camera that's out of focus, and you're looking on it out on TV that's all beat to shit, and the color's not so hot.
That sounds not ideal. That stinks. So that's like what you see
Yeah,
basically. Yeah. So it's not that it's not blackness.
No, it's actually weird because it's getting worse. I'm going blind. It's it looks a lot different than what one would expect. It's not darkness. It's actually really bright. The other thing I left out of there that somebody with retinitis pigmentosa sees a lot of flashes and stuff. So it kind of looks like somebody took a picture with a flash. Sometimes I see a lot of flashing. So there's sometimes it looks kind of bright to me, but I'm sitting in the dark. So
wow.
The world around me gets darker, but what I'm seeing is the flashing and the lights. And I saw this one blind woman. She said she looks at it as her own firework display. That's a nice.
Yeah, it's a nice one. I guess a positive, somewhat positive.
Yeah. She's got a positive outlook on it, and she talks about how she gets to see the world through eyes that other people don't. That's good. She has a good positive view on it. I'm still holding out for a bionic eye so I can zoom in on some shit.
How far along? I mean, we're jumping around, but how far along is the technology for that? Do you have any idea?
They've got some technology, like they put some big ass goggles on people, and I still see better than what the goggles do right now. But I assume, well, I'm going to be 52 this year. I assume sometime within my life they'll be able to have something for it, either with that or the stem cells. I think I would personally rather go with the technology. Like I said, if I could zoom in, that would be pretty sweet, bionic style. But I would take stem cells. It's kind of weird though, because I don't know what the hell I would do if I could see, better. I mean, like I did drive for about 15 minutes, because my vision, I passed the eye test, and I mean, how do I say it? Like, oh, I almost killed us. So I was like, well, I pulled over, told my mom to drive home. I said, I quit, I'm going to kill my ass. When I was 16, obviously I didn't want to give up driving, but I had enough common sense to realize this wasn't going to end well for me. So I sold it and bought a new guitar and a new amp. So, and that didn't kill me. So that was good.
Gotcha. So you always had trouble with your vision, and
yeah, they didn't know it when I was younger though, because, like I think it was in first grade, like kindergarten and stuff. They didn't know I couldn't see because I was pretty well behaved, and they just thought I didn't pay attention. And they gave us an eye test in school, and I passed it because they said test. I said, well, I got to pass this. So I stood at the back line and memorized what all the kids in front of me said. So I passed all the tests.
Yeah.
And, so they didn't know what the hell was wrong, why I wasn't doing good in school. And then they took me to an eye doctor, and I couldn't see the big E, and then they figured it out.
Yeah.
But they didn't figure out I had retinitis pigmentosa until I was about 18 years old. And that's when they told me I was going to go blind. And it's funny, like I mentioned to you earlier today that I'm an introvert. I'm not terribly outwardly emotional and things like that. But I also don't freak out or panic very easily and stuff. And, when they told me that, I guess I didn't have the reaction they expected me to. So they sent me to some sort of counselor, vocational counselor. Yeah. And then so they sent me this vocational counselor to see what I could do, and they didn't have anything about music on the thing. They had maybe a couple questions kind of closely related to art. So I said the most negative answer you can have on it about everything except for the art kind of things. And they came back and told me that I should sell greeting cards. I was like,
Wow.
I was like, well, at least they didn't tell me to sell pencils or light bulbs like they used to do to blind people. So send me on the street corner selling pencils.
Wow, people live they're so limiting. Like I'm thinking more and more about like how, and we do it to ourselves. We put limits on ourselves, and we put limits on other people. You kind of answered my question I was going to ask, like, how did you react to like going through all this and these sort of, revelations or medical findings about yourself? Like but you kind of said you sort of took it in stride almost, it sounds like.
Yeah, it didn't faze me really. I mean, nowadays it's a little like I think I have to deal with it a little bit more because it's a little bit of a pain in the ass. Like if I want to learn a new piece of music or something, it takes me a hell of a lot longer to get through it. And at some point in time, because I don't read Braille or anything, I'm gonna have to deal with that. So I'll have to figure out what's up then. So I'm trying to cram as much stuff in my brain as I can beforehand. But luckily for me, I got into music to write music. I didn't do it to play other people's music. So I guess that's not a terrible thing if I don't learn somebody else's song, but it's kind of nice to look at the sheet music. It's a little easier than doing it by ear all the time.
Where does like the strength come from, or that the personality even? Is it from your parents, or is it, or just like you yourself are just like, oh, this is just what I have to deal with, to not like think why me or feel bad for yourself or I don't, or complain, any of these things? Like, it just, like you're saying, it's like
I think I'm just really stubborn. That's a little bit of a family gene too.
I see.
Yeah. So yeah, just stubborn. I'm not one to really give up on things. I'm kind of tenacious in that sense.
No, that's great.
The only thing I can think I've quit at recently is I know how to play chess, but I was trying to get back into it, and memorizing the chessboard and where everything is at is just not terribly fun. So I quit playing chess. After I bugged my friend to death to play with me, and then so now I'm not doing the chess thing anymore, because I like strategy too. So I kind of thought that would be fun, and I thought it would help with the memory aspects of things too. But yeah, so that was one thing I actually had to give up on.
Yeah, you really do have to, or seem to, like, strengthen other muscles and skills, like in other areas, and that it, like, I don't, maybe this is a reach, but like your life, like your daily life, it seems like there's a lot of strategy involved with it, how to get places and go places and seek out information and communicate. Like, I'm so sure that you have like personal strategies and methods of going about your life and day.
I definitely have to plan ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a sign of an intelligent person, I think.
Yeah, I like to think so. Yeah. So I always have to plan ahead. I'm not the most spontaneous person on earth, so I guess that's maybe why I didn't do so hot. Jazz isn't my favorite style of music to play. I'm more, I like I said, I grew up a metalhead, but I love classical music.
Yeah.
And I love the perfection of classical music. I like really working on the perfection of it, and the theory behind it, and the brainiac kind of stuff behind it. And that fits more with my personality types than, say, jumping into a jazz song and improvising all over the place.
Yeah.
Not that I can't improvise, but it's just not my forte.
Yeah, tell me more about, I guess, your musical journey as like growing up through middle school and high school, because it sounded like you had some, like I think you were telling me before we recorded about how you kind of went from instrument to instrument, style to style, and we're kind of on that path right now. So tell me more about like middle school, Shawn. Did they at this point they figured out like why you couldn't, why you were not a great student?
Yeah, elementary school we had the recorder, so we did that. And
Me too.
Yes, I wasn't terribly good at that. I learned. Me too. And then I knew going into junior high school you had to take PE if you or band. And I knew in PE I was going to get hit in the face with something, so I said I'm going to go for band. So, well, I guess when I was 8, I had a guitar lesson, 2 or 3, and my teacher bored the shit out of me, and I quit. Just, and wasn't nothing wrong with the guy. He, I still remember the stuff he taught me. He just didn't make it any fun. And as a teacher now, that's one thing I really push on is, the kids got to have fun. But so then in 6th grade, they brought instruments by for us to check out. I thought the saxophone was cool, so I played saxophone through junior high school and high school, and that was cool. I was usually first chair, second chair most of the time, and then when I got into high school, when I was 15, I got back into guitar. I saw Judas Priest again, night in the Defenders of the Faith tour, 1984, 85. And I decided that's what I had to do with my life. I had to learn how to play guitar. So I was playing guitar and saxophone. And then one day I went into school and the band director told me that I had to cut my hair to stay in band. And I packed up my shit and left, and they called my mom. And I told my mom, I was like, hey, Shawn just packed up his stuff and left today. We don't know why. And my mom was joking and said, what'd you do? Tell him to cut his hair? And I said, yeah, we mentioned it. And she said, you ought to be glad he didn't tell you to go to hell on the way out the door.
Wow.
And
that's
so
cool.
Yeah, so so from that point on, I really didn't touch my saxophone again, which really kind of bugs me because I would have been playing saxophone 40 years now. But it gave me more time for the guitar because I really did play till my fingers bled. I would play, if I wasn't in school, you didn't see me without a guitar. I'd play 10, 12 hours a day.
Wow.
And
you
then,
I was going to ask if you still had a saxophone.
No, unfortunately I sold it. If I didn't, I would have picked it up years ago and started playing it again.
Yeah. There's still time.
Yeah. I actually looked into buying another one, but I ended up getting other instruments instead because while I do love the sound of the saxophone, I like string instruments way better. So I've recently picked up the banjo. I know how to play drums and bass, but I also picked up over the last 2 years with all this extra time that I've had, I picked up the mountain dulcimer and the harmonica too.
Very cool.
So I think altogether I play like 7 instruments.
Damn. Yeah, these are, and some of these are more versatile than the saxophone. Saxophone's awesome, as are all these different sounds, but there's more versatility and more mileage out of guitar, of course, and the most, and then drums. Or bass even.
Yeah.
Get into some styles.
Yeah, but like say with the dulcimer, it's pretty limited. But my grandpa had built one and gave it to my grandma, and she gave it to me. I told her, but if he, any of his instruments that he had around, go ahead and ship them off over here. So I'm gonna learn how to play them, and it made it nice because he built it. So that was cool. So I have an instrument my grandpa built.
Very cool. So you kind of, by high school and playing all this guitar, you kind of knew your future was going to be in music in some capacity with guitar perform. Did you have like dreams of like like being a rock star? I'll just say it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then you find out you got to have other people as serious as you to do it. So that's always been the bitch, finding good musicians to play with who want to put in the time. Because right. I mean, it should be fun to play, but you also have to really put in the hard work. And a lot of people just don't, they like to fuck off, and they want to turn every practice session into a party, and that doesn't always work that way. So so at some point in time in there, like I guess I was probably about, when I was 15, I started playing the electric guitar. By the time I was 16, my teacher told me he had taught me pretty much everything he could teach me about the electric guitar. And I kind of started teaching a little bit on my own to other kids my age. But that didn't work out because I didn't have the patience for them because they weren't willing to put the work in. So I got pissed and quit teaching. But in there, after, I couldn't find people. After I moved out here with my band and then we broke up, I didn't really find people that I liked to play with. So I started playing, I guess after that, when I was 17, I started playing classical guitar a little bit, dipped my toe in, and I'm a big Randy Rhoads fan from Ozzy. And then I didn't spend a lot of time with it because I wanted to play electric guitar. And then, like I said, when I was like 26 and I was tired of just looking for other people to play with, I knew I still wanted to play music. So I just started playing classical guitar on my own, just for the fun of it.
Finger picking and all that, using the fingers and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's it's quite different than I'm assuming using some kind of pick on playing heavy metal.
Yeah.
Speed riffs or something.
There are a few electric guitar players who finger pick, like Jeff Beck does.
Right.
I think Richie Blackmore does sometimes, and there's somebody else I'm forgetting. But they finger pick. Lindsey Buckingham from Fleetwood Mac finger picks.
But they're not playing like speed riffs when they're finger picking, or maybe they are. Like some of the, I don't know.
Yeah, no, not really. It's not. It's a totally different thing. So yeah, then I got into that, and then I went to LACC for fun. I wanted to take a music theory, not a music theory class, music appreciation, and learn more about classical music. And one day I was sitting in the class, it was one of the first days, and the teacher was like going by and asking everybody, would you want to come in and show what you can do? And I remember thinking to myself, I'm not going to do this. I've never played classical music in front of anybody. And the teacher, one by one, asked everybody if they want to come and play. And he pointed at me and said, you want to come in and play? And I'll be damned if yes didn't come out of me. And after I said yes, I was like, why the hell did I do that? I don't want to come in and play classical music in front of people. But just I couldn't, something inside of me would not let me say, no, I'm not going to play. So I brought my guitar in. That was the first time I played classical music in front of anybody.
This was in how old were you?
Oh man, I was like 27 by then, 28.
And where was this again? You said
LA City College.
And it was just a class.
Yeah, it was a music appreciation class, basically a music listening class. And the teacher said if anybody has an instrument, they wanted to come in and show. So I got up and I played a Bach prelude in front of people, and that was the first time I played it. And I remember when I would get there early, and I would listen to the class before mine too, because it was a different teacher. And I one of the things I really love is history. So I love the music and history together. It's glorious. And the chair of the department would hear me playing in the hallway, and she was like, "Oh, you should join, our guitar ensemble or take music theory." And I remember I cracked a joke at her, and she said, "You should take music theory." And I said, "That has my two worst subjects." And she goes, "What are you talking about?" Sight and singing, because you have to be able to look at a piece of paper and read it and sing what's on the page. And I really didn't like singing. I'd never sang at the time. I spent my whole life trying to avoid that. And she didn't know what the hell to think about me cracking blind jokes and everything. So she finally talked me into it, and I found that I was really good at it. And so that's when I became I guess I'd say semi-professional classical guitar player. I mean, I play weddings and stuff like that, but I'm not like a stage performer in it or anything like that. At least I've never.
Cool though.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, I really love it. It's challenging. That's the great thing about it. I mean, some of the stuff is just, I mean, they're very difficult to play, but it's fun.
Yeah, I don't play it. I mean, I play a little guitar and I took one classical course in college, but I love to listen to classical music.
Yeah.
Like it's timeless, as is any great type of music, but something especially is timeless about, I mean, it's older than popular music, 20th century modern music or whatever. So it's got that. It's definitely timeless if it's hundreds of, a few hundred years old. This kind of music for sure. So you were telling me also you had some teachers that influenced you along the way.
Yeah.
As far as guitar, when is this like you said you had a bad guitar teacher? Oh, the guy who was not fun. And then did you discover other teachers or?
Yeah, then I had this guy. His name was Harold Hooper at a place called McGuire Music in Lafayette. And man, he was fun. And he would, he knew I was a metalhead. He would always show me his good metal stuff, but he was rock and he played classical and folk. And he would always introduce me to new things that I'd never seen. I remember one time I came in and he goes, "Sit down and check this out." And he trying to think of the guy's name, something Reed, Jerry Reed, the country guy. He was the snowman on Smokey and the Bandit. He's a really great guitar player. I didn't know that. He goes, this is Jerry Reed, you know, from Smokey and the Bandit. He played this song called The Claw, this country song, finger picking. I'd never seen any shit like that in my life. I mean, he was all over the place. And he goes, what do you think of that? And I was like, damn. He goes, that's country music. I was like, you know, I'd never listened to country music, never thought I'd like country music. And, you know, he would introduce me to that. He'd introduce me to like Arabic music and folk music and all this other stuff. So I didn't play any of it much then, you know, but he is the one that got me doing the classical guitar too. So he got my foot in the door there. And
That's
then
great.
then when I moved out here, I didn't take any lessons. Like I said, I moved out here when I was 19. Yeah, 19, 20. And I didn't, like I said, I didn't take anything until I got back to LACC. And like I'd mentioned, I didn't get into music to play other people's stuff. I like to compose. So when I learned how these chord progressions and stuff worked and the theory behind music, it opened up this floodgate in me. And I swear I can express myself so much better now. I felt I was a good player before and a good writer, but this just opened the doors. And I actually won a state composition contest. I'd be like 170,000 people in
Damn.
California with a guitar quartet I wrote. And I remember when I did it, you know, just being, you know, the competitive person that I am in that sense, I remember thinking to myself, I don't know how I'm going to feel about this if I lose this. I mean, I knew I didn't look at myself as a classical musician or anything like that. So it was kind of weird for me thinking, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to feel if I lose. And then I won. And I was like, okay, all right, good. That made it reaffirmed what I felt about my playing. And it reaffirmed the fact that I could be the big fish in whatever pond I felt like floating in the music. Now, getting people to actually listen to you, that's a whole different thing. So.
Yeah, I got you. And I should also say that you're wearing a Willie Nelson shirt because you're talking about being exposed to country music. But that's cool how a teacher can really, a good teacher, a fun teacher, a teacher that you can connect with, and even beyond music, like really expand someone's horizons. But I think the key is to establish that trust first, and that trust comes from connecting, I think, with someone, and connecting comes from having fun.
Yeah,
I think that's a good formula for those things.
Yeah, when I teach the kids that I teach, I tell them, I said, my number one rule is we have to have fun. I said, don't be afraid of bad notes. Don't be afraid of, you know, hitting a bad note. Because I will say when I was younger, I was obsessed with the fact that if I hit a bad note, people were going to know it. And it really bugged the shit out of me. And I really felt that, I would say it held me back in a sense, because I didn't give it I gave it my all, but there was always that worry in there, that stage fright. And when I think that's when I was 29, I got in a really bad car crash, and the seatbelt wasn't working, and I got ejected and went through the windshield head first and landed on the hood of the car. And the windshield was all folded out underneath me. And I remember laying on the hood of the car, and I remember thinking, oh, I don't want to die out here. So I tried to push myself in, but I couldn't because my shoulder and rib cage were all messed up. So my left hand was okay. So I pushed myself in with that, but in the process, cut the hell out of my hand.
Yeah, you can't see what the fuck you're doing.
Yeah, so I was laying in the floorboard of the car. You know, my friend was knocked out. I was laying in the floorboard of the car, waiting to die, because I figured that I had to be dying. You know, you can't get thrown out of a car and not die, right? And then when I didn't die, I figured I better get up and go get help. But at that point, though, they, you know, my hand was all cut up. And, you know, for a few weeks, I didn't know if I was going to be able to play again. I didn't know how bad the damage was. And I remember I was so pissed that I spent all that time worrying about what other people thought, and not really thinking about just my love of the music. So I started trying to play left-handed because I was not going to quit. You know, I had all the knowledge in my head, and so I just kept working on it. And then when my hand was better and I could work on playing, I did lose some strength, you know, because at that time I was kind of heading more towards classical. So I say like bar chords still bother me a slight little bit compared to what they used to. But I felt this absolute relief when I played. I just don't get nervous. It was a very painful lesson to learn, but it was a great one, because I felt I got so much better. That's when I started winning, awards at school and stuff like that, at college, and those kind of things, because it just, all my anxiety or anything like that was just gone. So I wouldn't change it. Like I said, it hurt like hell, but it was a great lesson to learn.
Damn, that's that's intense. That's wow. You've gone through some shit. You've had some shit happen to you. It sounds like, damn, that.
Yeah.
But you have a good attitude, and that's admirable for sure. And that's super cool. So I'm guessing, I mean, obviously you skipped some parts in the story, but I guess people found you injured at the scene.
It was in Lafayette. I've been, that's the bad thing about being a blind person. I mean, it's a good thing that, I never had to worry about drinking and driving, but I tended to like to stay at the party because back in the day, I used to drink a lot. I still drank, but I don't have a problem with it or anything.
Right.
Like that, but
you're a younger man.
I did drink a ton. I think, I would drink a bottle of vodka easy, maybe two, the big fifth. And so I would make some bad choices and I would stick around the party and I would ride home with the last ride. And that didn't work out for me on a few occasions. I've been in a few crashes here and there, but that was really one of the worst. Yeah, I think that's probably the worst. But yeah, so I learned that lesson there, and then somebody came and found us, and there it was.
Well, you're lucky to be alive.
Yeah.
We all are, though.
Probably being blind is actually probably what saved me, because I didn't see it coming, and I hit, like when you don't see it, you don't tense up. So I hit the windshield like a rag doll and just went flying through it. They said, if I could have saw it coming, I'd have probably tensed up and gotten hurt worse.
I think that there's something also, but beyond that, maybe it's like the fact that you don't see how messed up things are in the whole scene. Like you can't get anxious from what you see. That's a sense that can't make you more anxious, I guess. And when you're anxious, you get stressed out, and the body could react differently. So like, it's not a source of, in a sense of like anxiety. Maybe is there something to that?
Yeah. Because I didn't tense up, and like when the fact that I didn't tense up, they say that one of the things, like when you tense up, that's why things start breaking in you and stuff, like your neck will break or something. Because I really don't know how I lived through it, but I did. So here I am.
Damn. And it sounded like you recovered fairly quickly from this. Within a few weeks,
I broke no bones.
Wow.
I do have something called a severe contusion of the chest cavity, which means basically my chest cavity is permanently bruised, and they said it may never go away. And this has been 20 something years, and occasionally I still feel it. I do have a scar on my hand right here, where a piece of glass was in my hand, and it kind of turned into powder. But whenever I did like a half bar chord, it was the glass was right where the first string was, and it really hurt. But I'd say that's one thing. And then sometimes I still feel that because the scar is still tender. So when I play a half bar, I always feel it, and it just reminds me of how much I must enjoy playing music.
Oh man, that stinks that you have to be in pain while doing something that brings you joy.
Not that bad.
It's not that bad. That's good. And you play other instruments too, so you got.
Yeah, I say the guitar doesn't hurt too bad. The banjo, man, it hurts like a motherfucker to play it sometimes, but it's all good. It's worth it.
Yeah. Where were we in terms of the timeline of your life? You were winning awards, you were teaching, you were learning. We were kind of like a little bit all over the.
Yeah, I'm all over.
And your late 20s.
Yeah,
when did you go from Lafayette, Indiana to LA, and what were the circumstances of that?
I wanted to move out here, wanted to be a rock star. So I moved out here with my band, and we all moved into a 1-bedroom apartment.
And this was when you were how old?
19.
Oh, so you've been in LA since you were 19, the whole
Yeah.
time. You never went back to Lafayette, Indiana.
Yeah, I go back. I gotta go back to visit, but
Oh,
yeah,
I mean, you never moved
yeah,
back or anything. Once you were 19 and you were here, you've been
yeah,
living in LA and starting out in band, and you played in bands basically
yeah,
over the years. I got you.
yeah,
You're a
yeah,
musician. You're working
yeah.
musician.
Yeah, I never really. It's funny. I never really found any bands. I never really after my band broke up. I never really found any bands that I really liked. So I played a lot by myself, and that's when the classical music came into play.
I
Because that,
see.
that was something I could do on my own. I didn't need to work with a pain in the ass singer or another pain in the ass guitar player, anything like that. You know, so a lot of us, a lot of us metalheads can be a real pain in the ass to work with.
Why is that? The nature of people.
Far too many of them want the lifestyle, but they don't want the work ethic to go along with it.
I believe that.
I find, so, I'm always looking for new. I would love to still play metal. If I could find some good libertarian people to play metal with that want to talk shit about the government, I'd be more than happy to do that. It would be fun as hell.
I'm sure
Same
you'll
thing,
find.
with folk music. I want to find some people to play folk music and do the same thing, rebel music.
For sure. That's cool. So you were kind of playing in bands where when did you start to get into the teaching thing?
Well, I started teaching like a year and a half after I started playing guitar, and I quit because I didn't have patience for it. And then when I was probably 27, 28 years old, one of my friends was teaching, and he asked me to come assist him because his class was too big. And I told him, my history and everything, and I don't know how I was going to do with this. And when I went to do it, I was like, oh man, this is easy now. I totally had the patience, and then I just started teaching on my own.
You
And
learned to have patience over the years, so you were
yeah,
able to.
yeah.
I see.
So that really just got me. He got the ball rolling for me, and that's what I do now. So, and like I said, all the stuff I learned at LACC, I had such great teachers there, from the singing teachers to the, my favorite teacher there is this man named Laszlo Cser. He's from Hungary. He grew up in the Soviet system, and just a beast on the piano, and jazz player, classical player. But he was one of 12 people, because the way the Soviet system worked, he was one of 12 people allowed to go to the Franz Liszt Academy the year that he went to it in the country, because they communists make you have to do what they tell you, basically. So he was one of the few people allowed that year, and he changed the way I looked at music. He fixed any flaw that I had about how writing goes and stuff like that. Like, I took this class called 20th Century Composition, and at the end of the semester, you had to have 5 pieces done. We started off with 30 people in the class. We ended with 8 because so many people dropped out. I think I was one of only 2 or 3 people that had all 5 pieces done, and I had 12 because, like I said, it just opened the floodgates. I could sit down and write something that I've never played, and be fine with it. I don't have to touch an instrument. Just sit there and write it out. And he opened that door for me. And so, the way I explain how to write a song is when I teach the kids is I said, find out what you want to say, and then think of a cooler way to say it, and then put a nice chord progression behind it. Then that's how you write a song.
Interesting. Yeah, I was kind of gonna ask, like, what was it that either musically or structurally or whatever, like theoretically, that he, explained to you this? What was his teacher's name again?
Laszlo Cser. He's
Laszlo
retired now from LACC, but I do encourage anybody in the Los Angeles area, if you want to learn more about music, go to LACC. It's cheap, and you get better teachers there than you would at UCLA or anything. Because a lot of my friends transferred to UCLA, and they talked about how much better the education was at LACC. The music teachers there just phenomenal. Each and every.
Yeah. What was it that unlocked this power within you, like beyond even what you were saying about like your musical writing formula? Was it things beyond that resonated with you?
he would talk about, like, say, a chord progression, let's say a 1-6-4-5, something like that. And then he would show us, 50 different songs use that same progression in different styles. He'd say, oh, you don't like this. And he'd do a jazz version. He would show us that once you understand this theory, you can do anything with it. And that just, man, it just fascinating. I want to think he got the quote from Stravinsky or something like that, but he said, when you realize that all music is made out of the same 12 notes, that's a shocking concept. Outside Western music, obviously Indian music and Arabic music has a little extra stuff thrown in there, but basically every popular song you've ever heard of is made out of the same notes. It doesn't matter if it's jazz, country, classical, and just depending on how you arrange these things, it's up to you to what you can do with it. And that just fascinated the shit out of me.
Yeah, no, I could see that. I could relate to that. That's cool. So you're playing, you're learning, your life is is like all things music, like all the time, it sounds like.
If it's not, I'm usually reading a history book.
Yeah.
Yeah. That or smoking a lot of weed.
Yeah.
Other than that is bad. I do like to go to museums. As long as I can still see, I'm still gonna go to museums. I really like the Getty Villa, with the antiquities. I like Roman statues and stuff like that. And occasionally I'll try to sneak a touch on them or something. It's actually, sometimes you can get permission as a blind person to touch some of the things. So that's
cool.
Cool.
Yeah, that's true. You could definitely play that card. I would if I was you.
Yeah. Yeah, I found that out one time because I was in LACMA and I got my picture taken next to a Hercules statue and I grabbed Hercules' nose and they caught me.
Yeah.
I said, well, no, I'm blind. So then they told me that they had blind tours and stuff. And like sometimes like I can go in early, like with the crowds aren't there and they let you in with the full lighting. Like I got to go to the Cleopatra exhibit at the Science Center and they let me in early with the lights on so I could see everything better. So that was pretty cool.
So like big statues and big clear things you can still actually appreciate that. Yeah.
And some paintings, if they have good contrast, so far, I haven't been, really since the pandemic. So the last 2 years haven't been terribly good for my eyes. It's taken a pretty good downturn. So I'll see next time I go how well it is, how well it works for me. But I know there's going to be a time when I won't be able to see it. So I try to see as much of it as possible while I can.
Gotcha. No, it makes sense. You're someone who appreciates. You're someone who appreciates things. It sounds like that sustains people having appreciation and gratitude for whatever cool things you can experience while we spend our time on this planet, basically.
Yeah.
For sure. What do you only teach guitar now, or do you teach other
instruments? It's funny, I mostly teach piano. I'm actually happy right now because I've actually got quite a few guitar students now. And that's a little, I would say, I don't know, they both have their easy thing to teach because guitar, as you know, if you don't put your finger on the string right, you don't get a good sound. And getting somebody to have their hand in a good position is a little bit trickier than somebody can just touch a piano and make a decent.
I was gonna say that there must be some challenges of being blind or hard of seeing and teaching someone the visual aspects of the instrument and knowing where things you could. But there's probably also are pros of being because you're more sensitive to sound or more. I don't know how to explain it, but is there advantages of
I'd say the thing that I got better was my concentration. As a metalhead, I think I probably wrecked any of my better hearing aspects of things. Like say when I teach kids, kids are going to be kids, and sometimes they don't realize. Like I'll tell them to play C, D, E, F, G with all 5 fingers, and then they kind of forget that they're supposed to use all their fingers, and I don't see that that's happening. So I gotta I got to keep checking every once in a while, make sure that they're not cheating and playing with one finger or something like that.
I see people taking advantage.
Yeah, or then maybe not even just taking advantage. You know, some little kids don't realize
Yeah,
it.
I got you.
Yeah, or then some of them, yeah, they definitely try to get away with things. You know,
Yeah.
so I have to take each kid as an individual and understand. Okay, this kid's a little bit of a smart ass. He's gonna try to get away with stuff. If all of a sudden the kid starts playing stuff a lot better than I felt he should have been at that point because he wasn't that good, I know he's not playing it with the right fingers. You know, so you know so I have to go in there and say, no, I have to put my hand over the top of their hand and say, here, play it now, so I can feel what fingers doing what and things like that.
Wow.
But like I said, overall, it's a lot of fun teaching because, you know, a lot of the kids, they're not going to be musicians and stuff, but I want them to have fun with music. And that's the goal, is not to make a bunch of little musicians necessarily, but to make kids that really appreciate music and know how to, you know what kind of work it takes to put into something to get good at it. And also to learn to have fun with it and not care like I did. You know, don't have that idea of being afraid of bad notes. I always tell them bad notes are just the notes next door to the good ones. So just slide into the good one. And I tell them sometimes the bad notes are pretty damn funny. So, you know, don't be afraid to laugh if you hit a bad note. Shit, it's funny sometimes. And then, you know, I'll hit a bad note. And they're like, oh, you hit a bad note. I said, you're damn right I did. You know, I'm proud of that.
That's awesome. That's such a great attitude and an approach to teaching and all those things that you're describing. Like if a person, not even a kid, just a young person, a kid, whatever, like absorbs like even part of what you're saying, and you know, that could be something that sets them on a path for their life. You set the tone for that, for them to have music appreciation and maybe even play for the rest of their lives, and that becomes like an outlet, because like while people are playing music and consuming music, usually they're not like killing each other or arguing. It bridges the gap between all different kinds of people. It's a common thing that we could share. Maybe at some of the metal concerts you've been to, there've been some violence and fights and things like that, which contradicts what I'm saying. But for the most part, I would say music brings people together.
Yeah. You know, a good Slayer show, if somebody goes down in the pit, you help them up. You don't trample them.
Right.
You know, I will say that there was one little girl that I taught, and she didn't practice a lot. She wasn't terribly good at anything she played, but she really had fun. But, you know, she's obviously never going to be a musician. And when she was about ready to graduate from high school, and she went to her counselor, and she wanted to be a psychologist. And she told her counselor, she goes, I love music, but I would love to do something with psychology. And her counselor told her, said, why don't you go to college for what they call it, like musical therapy, like the psychology of music. And she's like, that's a thing. And so she actually went to college. You know, she went to Arizona State for that. So, you know, that was one of my students who actually uses what I taught her. Even though she's not a performer, you know, she uses it for therapy and how to, you know, teach people to relax and that kind of stuff. And then I have other kids, like this one little girl, she started off on, you know, her parents I think they're immigrants. They didn't have very much money. They just started her off on keyboard, but she didn't even have a keyboard. She just had like an iPad, and it had an app on it. So she would push the notes on the little app. Not an ideal situation, but when they found out she liked it, you know, they got her a keyboard. And then she saw that movie Amadeus about Mozart, and she saw that he played underneath the piano with his hands upside down. So she tried that kind of stuff. She got to where she could play a lot of stuff on piano, then came in one day with a guitar and decided she wanted to learn how to play guitar. So then I was like, all right, cool. So now we're doing guitar and piano. And when she was in high school, she picked up cello. So now she plays cello, guitar, piano, and I don't know what else she plays. So it's a lot of fun when you can inspire kids to do this and have fun. And, you know, I tell them, I said, you know, at the very least, like you say, you want to go to school and be a doctor, you know, you want a job while you're in school, you can just teach some of the music students who are beginning piano players, teach them piano. So that's an easy job. I go, you know, or you know, you can be like me and get a job teaching. I go, I sit in an air conditioned room and talk about music and play music all day, and I get paid for it. And if somebody doesn't show up, I still get paid. I said, it's wonderful. I got friends that work in factories and stuff like that. And, back in Indiana, and I'm sure I have more fun than them.
Yeah. You're in the music factory.
Yeah.
That's great. No,
Yeah.
I'm like inspired just like listening to like someone who's able to do what they love. And yeah, you deserve it, by the way. I will say that for sure. No, that's cool. Do you have other students that jump out at you? I mean, you don't have to name names
Yeah, there was this one little kid at I don't work at that park
that are
anymore
cool students. Great
because my
students.
boss left. But this one little kid, he'd already played some, and I think he's about 10 or 12 years old. And I don't know, like within weeks, he really surpassed me as a piano player. Because I'm a intermediate piano player. I'm not like a concert pianist. I know enough to teach, right? And this kid came in, man, he just tore it up. I mean, he practiced a lot. And I remember I have a couple of stories about that kid.
How old was this kid when he came
12.
in?
12.
So was he already playing a long time?
He played a little bit. No, he'd been playing like a few months.
Yeah. This is like a virtuoso almost. Or
Yeah.
That.
He's a beast on it.
Damn.
And I remember over Christmas break, we had like a 3-week break. His parents got him the Star Wars book with all the Star Wars songs in it. I thought, oh, this would be great. He came in after the break and he knew the whole goddamn book.
Wow.
And he's going through the book and he's playing a little bit from each song. I mean, he had the Creature Cantina song down. That's a hard song. But he had this one song, he comes to it, it was called Padme's Love Song. And he's playing it, and he's like, and he's playing it some more, and he gets this look on his face. And then he plays it some more. He goes, I don't recognize this song. I said, I don't either. And he looks at me just dead ass serious, and he goes, that's for the deep Star Wars nerd. And I just started laughing. It was so funny. I was like, yeah, I think you're right. It is for the deep Star Wars nerd. And then his dad got him a book on classic rock stuff. And we were getting ready to have another break. And he goes, I want to learn something, like a classic rock song. And I said, okay. What are you thinking? He goes, well, I like Billy Joel. I go, well, let's do Piano Man. Because I knew how to play it on the guitar. I knew the progression. As I stated earlier, it's a 1-6-4-5. Once you know those patterns, you recognize it. And I showed him the basic chord progression and what the left hand did. And he came back the next week or the 2 weeks after the break. And I had my back turned. And if you know the song, it has this little blues lick at the beginning. Kind of thing, right? And I heard that. I had my back turned. I said, oh, he's playing it on his phone. And I turned around and it was him. I was like, oh shit. I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, I don't think you need any help on that. I think you got that perfectly. So I mean, he just cool. Yeah, he's a little beast on the thing.
That is awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Like I said, it makes going to work pretty fun, rather fun.
And what about
now there are some kids that test the patience though.
Oh, I bet.
Oh, Jesus. There are some of those.
What about for you, your music, or what are you working on these days?
Well, like someplace along the line, I ended up at a folk center, and that's where I got into folk music. Not a folk center, at a senior center. And one of the seniors had seen some movie about like some senior citizen choir, and they wanted to get a singing group there. So they wanted to get everybody together in a circle and sing like old folk tunes like Woody Guthrie and Bob Dylan and stuff like that. And I found out I liked all this protest music that they did in the 60s. I didn't like all the communism that was in it. So I decided I'm going to write some of this stuff myself. So they asked me to do the class. So after a couple of years, I started writing my own stuff. And that's how I got into what I do now. And basically what I do is I write, say Woody Guthrie style folk music minus the communism, just libertarian style stuff. I want to keep that traditional American folk style alive. And part of the tradition is to take an old song and rework it with new lyrics and stuff like that. So you keep the song alive and put a different message onto it. Like, that song, This Land Is Your Land, that Woody Guthrie did. I think there's that one. It was originally an old Christian hymn. And he took the melody and turned it into This Land Is Your Land. And now I've turned it into these rights are your rights. And so I've been recording my new album. I'm going to release it on tax day because I have a song on there called Tax Man. So that's what my the last year has really been about, writing those tunes and getting those prepared and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I love recording. Recording's so much fun for me. I love the whole recording process.
Very cool. Yeah, no, that's where we connected, is through Libertarian Party, through the Mises Caucus. How long have you been involved, like politically or whatever?
Well, how I became a libertarian. I was always
how
my mother had mentioned to me when I was about 15 or 16 something about libertarians. I said, "What the hell is that?" And she explained it to me as a small party, this and that. And she goes, this is in Indiana still. And she goes, they really can't win, but she knew some lawyers that were libertarians. They were against the war on drugs. I said, that sounds like a good idea. And so I always felt like I was a libertarian, but I voted Democrat because I felt they were better on the anti-war stuff and the decriminalization of drugs. My first presidential vote was 1988, and I'm still pissed that I voted for Dukakis when I could have voted for Ron Paul as a libertarian. But the thing that sent me away from the Democratic Party was the PMRC, all the censorship stuff in the 90s, when they came after my medal, and all that stuff.
And the rap too and all that.
Yeah, rap. And
that always comes back.
Yeah, they even went after, John Denver, for God's sake, and I never looked back, and I've been voting libertarian since then. But, I only voted. I wasn't active at all. And one day I joked with my girlfriend. I said, I want to promote my music. And I thought a good way to do it would be to run for office. And I always said, I'll do it. And I never did it. And one day I was just sitting here. It was it's probably like November or December of 2019. And the former chair of California, Ted Brown, who lives in Texas now, sometimes phone banks for California still. And he called me. He goes, we see your number on there. Want to know if you want to run for office or somebody in your district that's running unopposed. And I was like, oh man. I was like, I was dying to say yes, but I was like, oh, let me go talk to my family. I got to talk to my girlfriend because, as a blind person, I'm obviously going to need some help with some of this crap. I can't just pour it all on everybody. And I said, let me call you back tomorrow. And that's when I decided I was going to run for office, and they gave me Angela McArdle's number. And that's how I ended up being on the XCOM finally. I ended up not running for office because I didn't get my signatures in time. I got a little bit of a late start, but I got on the XCOM out here in Los Angeles, and, now I'm a national delegate.
Very cool. An XCOM means you're the
executive committee for Los Angeles County. It's like I represent Northeast and Central LA.
Yeah, you're not my region. I'm Dan Welby's Valley region.
You got great Dan Welby.
Yeah, no, it's been fun to connect with all you guys, and Angela McArdle, of course, and it's been a journey, and I definitely appreciate your time and this conversation. I feel like I learned a lot about you, and that's always fun for me, from the music to the metal to the classical to the country to the folk. Your blind journey through windshields and surviving that has been intense, and I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're okay. You have an inspiring attitude, for real, about like all the shit that's happened to you.
Yeah. You gotta take it as it comes, man.
Oh, I'm trying.
Playing the tunes.
We're all trying, for sure. But I'll let you. Yeah, but I'll let you get on with the rest of your. Before you do, why don't you plug or promote or share anything else you want to share? I'll kind of give you the floor to do that.
Oh, okay, cool. Thanks. Yeah. Well, if I have a podcast it's a podcast network called the Liberty Blues Network. I have 3 podcasts on there. One of them is a progressive and a libertarian walk into a bar. My progressive friend and I get together and drink beer and talk shit about how much we disagree with each other. In a friendly way. It shows people can still have a friendly conversation with people they disagree with. And then I do the Liberty Blues, which is with 2 of my friends in Indiana. And one of them's a lawyer and the other one's a school teacher. And we talk about more of a national politics and things like that. And then I have Libertarian Los Angeles. They're all 3 on there. And that's obviously pretty specific. And then my music, of course, is it's on most of the streaming services, other than I don't think I'm on Pandora. Maybe I'm a little too radical for Pandora, but if you look up Shawn Osborne, it's Osborne with an E and no U, so it's not spelled like Ozzy. But yeah, I have a few albums on there. The new album should be coming out April 15th. It's going to be called Free People. I'm really happy with this one because I really got a lot of time to work on it. I did a lot more finger picking in the folk style of finger picking on there. So, classically playing finger picking, I don't have to sing. So that's easier. But when I tried to start singing over it, it wasn't working real well for me in the beginning. So I've only been singing about 10 years because, like I said, I tried to avoid it most of my life. But my voice tends to fit folk music, so I went ahead and sang, but I had to learn how to finger pick. So I got some good finger picking going on there to liven up the music, and threw some banjo and stuff in on it. So yeah, that's coming out on April 15th. And there's a song on there that I did for the Mises Caucus that I invited a bunch of people from the Mises Caucus to come in and play on it. It's an old folk tune called Worried Man Blues, but in the tradition, I changed the lyrics to take human action and made it about, getting active in your community and helping out. Be the solution. Don't sit around and wait for government to come help you, because you'll be sitting there with your thumb up your ass. So, this is the song I put together with a bunch of people helped out. Even people who weren't musicians, somebody wanted to send in a vocal track so they could be in the background during the chorus. Had somebody playing a paper bag, for rhythm. It's an old Carolina Hill thing. They play it like an instrument, just play the paper bag. Somebody's playing the washboard. This young kid named John Goodman came in, and he's 15 years old, and he's a much better banjo player than I am. So he put a real nice banjo part for the intro and for the choruses. So I wanted to build this community with music, because the last interview I saw with Ron Paul with Michael Heiss, he said that music was vital to any revolution. And I totally agree with that. And I thought this is a great way for somebody to give to an organization. Say if you don't have money to join the Mises Caucus, you can hit play on your Spotify or on YouTube and just put it on repeat, and you're earning money for the caucus while you sleep. Or, when we have events, I can maybe hopefully get other musicians to do the same thing, dedicate one song, give the royalties away, and it'll help you as a musician too, because it's going to pull you up in the algorithms, and that way people can listen to this tune at libertarian events and hopefully get more libertarian music and really build our culture and take it away from the left, because the left really does have a stranglehold on culture these days. And I want to wrestle that away from them. And
no, that we should.
You know what I mean? Just take it away. That's another thing. I really love martial arts, and I used to do judo and jujitsu and stuff. So I like combat, and I want to wrestle that away from them.
No, for sure. And I feel like we're really liberty-minded people, libertarians, Mises Caucus people. Like, we're our own thing. We have things in common with some people on the right and conservatives, Republicans,
Mm-hmm.
whatever you want to say, and some things in common with what at least the left claims to believe.
Yeah.
I'll say that. So it's more. I feel like it's more about like them getting them to come to us. We're doing our own thing. We're forming our own community. And if people want to come along, and plenty of people should, if we're putting out quality music about, that's fun and putting our views out there, people will come along. But I really appreciate your time. It's been a lot of fun. I'll let you get on with the rest of your day.
Well, thank you very much, Adam.
Oh, thank you. And we'll talk more soon, Shawn.
Yes, indeed, sir.
Oh, you got it. Later.
So there you have it. Episode 126 and my conversation with Shawn Osborne. That was fun. And I, of course, again, appreciate that dude's time. It really has been fun to get to know him a little bit better over the course of the last year or so. Anyway, for now, please check out peoplewelovepodcast.com and follow at peoplewelovepodcast on Instagram. I appreciate that. I'm at Adam Troit on Twitter and Instagram myself. 5-star positive reviews on iTunes, Apple Podcasts are greatly appreciated too. But I think that's about all I got for today. Hope everyone is doing okay out there. I appreciate you guys listening as always, and thank you. And let's talk soon. Peace.